Get your filthy black hands off my bench. The woman in the designer coat recoiled as Marcus Hale approached the bus shelter. Rain hammered the cracked pavement. His janitor uniform was soaked through. Her shoulders trembled with sobs. She'd been crying before he arrived, but the moment she saw his skin, grief twisted into disgust. I just wanted to check if you're okay, ma'am. You've been crying. Okay. Do I look like I need help from someone like you? She laughed bitterly, tears still streaming, a black janitor. What could you possibly offer me? Marcus said nothing. He reached into his pocket. 2 crumpled dollars, his last $2. He placed them gently in her trembling hand for the bus. Ma'am, it's a long walk in this rain. Then he turned and disappeared into the darkness. 6 months later, this same woman would stand in a courtroom holding his fate in her hands, and Marcus Hale would finally cry, not from her cruelty, but from her redemption. The alarm clock buzzed at 5:15 a.m., held together by duct tape and stubbornness, much like its owner. Marcus Hale rolled off the couch, bones aching from another night on springs that had given up years ago. The bedroom belonged to his mother now. She needed it more. He padded to her door, cracked it open. Gloria Hale lay sleeping, her silver hair spread across the pillow like a halo. 74 years old, early-stage dementia, stealing her memories one by one, like a thief too patient to catch. On her nightstand, 7 pill bottles, medications for blood pressure, for memory, for the anxiety that came when she couldn't remember where she was. Marcus sorted them quietly. Blue pills first, then white, then the small yellow ones that cost more than his weekly groceries. Marcus? That you, baby? Her voice still thick with sleep. It's me, Mama. Go back to sleep. Did you call Jada yet? She hasn't visited in so long. His hand froze over the pill organizer. Jada, his baby sister. I'll call her later. Mama, you rest. He didn't tell her the truth. The Jada couldn't visit. The Jada was sitting in a cell at Bedford Hills Correctional Facility, 3 years into a 5-year sentence for a crime she didn't commit. Marcus finished the pills and moved to the kitchen. Oatmeal today, the cheap kind, not the instant packets with artificial flavoring. Real oats cost less if you had time to cook them. He didn't have time. He made them anyway. On the refrigerator door, held by a magnet shaped like a cross, was a photograph. Marcus, at 22, wearing paramedic scrubs, grinning at his graduation ceremony, his father's arm around his shoulder, his mother crying happy tears. Jada, just 19, holding a sign that read, "My brother saves lives." That was 16 years ago, before everything fell apart. Marcus touched the photo, then pulled his hand back. "I'm sorry, Dad," he whispered. "I'm trying." The bus rumbled through North Philadelphia as dawn cracked the sky. Marcus sat in the back, invisible among the early morning crowd. Construction workers, night shift nurses heading home. A homeless man sleeping across 3 seats, undisturbed. Everyone fighting their own battles. Everyone too tired to judge. This was the only time of day Marcus felt seen, because here, nobody was looking. He pulled out his phone. One unread message from Bedford Hills correctional inmate call scheduled 6:45 p.m. today. Jada. His weekly 15 minutes. He'd worked double shifts for 3 years to afford those calls, $15 each, plus commissary money so she could buy soap that didn't strip her skin, plus lawyer fees for appeals that went nowhere. The bus stopped outside a gleaming tower of glass and steel. Mercer and Associates, 52 floors of corporate ambition. Marcus entered through the service door. Morning M. Tony, the security guard, nodded from his desk. 63 years old, worked here longer than most of the executives had been alive. "You look tired, brother. I'll sleep when Mama's better. And when's that going to be?" Marcus didn't answer. They both knew. The 52nd floor sparkled under Marcus's mop. He started at 6 a.m., finished before the executives arrived at 8. Invisible labor for invisible people. He found a $100 bill under one of the desks. Didn't even hesitate. Walked it straight to Lost and Found. "You're crazy, man." Luis, his co-worker, shook his head. "Nobody would have known." "I would have known." Luis laughed. "That's why you're broke, Em. Too much conscience, not enough sense." Maybe. But Marcus's father had taught him something before he died. Integrity isn't what you do when people are watching. It's what you do when they're not. Walter Hale, Sr., had lived by those words. Died by them too, probably. Heart attack at 58, working 3 jobs to keep his family afloat. Marcus was 38 now. Same trajectory, same tired bones. He finished mopping, started on the executive washrooms. That's when he heard it. "Thanks, Mr. Hale. Have a good day." He looked up, startled. Connor Hargrove, 35, junior executive with kind eyes and an expensive watch. One of the few people in this building who bothered to read name tags. "You too, Mr. Hargrove." Connor nodded and walked away. Hargrove. The name meant nothing to Marcus then. Just another white man in a suit, slightly less terrible than the others. He wouldn't learn the truth for another 6 months. By then, it would almost be too late. The phone call came during his lunch break. Marcus sat in the supply closet, the only place with enough privacy to cry if he needed to, which he did sometimes. Not that he'd ever admit it. "Mr. Hale, this is Pamela Perkins from Sunny Meadows Care Facility." His stomach dropped. "Is my mother okay?" "She's fine, physically." A pause. "But we had an incident this morning. She wandered out of the facility. Police found her 3 blocks away asking strangers for directions to a house she lived in 40 years ago." Marcus closed his eyes. "Mr. Hale, I'll be direct. Your mother needs full-time memory care. Our facility isn't equipped for patients at her stage. You have 2 options. Transfer her to a specialized memory care unit, or remove her by the end of the month." "How much is the memory care unit?" $8,500 per month. The number hit him like a physical blow. He made $2,100 on a good month. "What about Medicaid? There's an 18-month waiting list. 18 months. Gloria might not remember his name in 18 months. I'll figure it out," he heard himself say. "I always do." He hung up, sat in the darkness of the supply closet, and for the first time in 3 years, Marcus Hale felt truly hopeless. But the universe wasn't done with him yet. That evening, another letter waited in his mailbox. This one from a lawyer. Reappeal opportunity. Jada Hale, case number 2019-72734. He tore it open. "Dear Mr. Hale, new evidence has emerged in your sister's case that may support grounds for appeal. However, pursuing this opportunity will require retaining competent legal counsel. Estimated cost $15,000. $15,000. Marcus sat at his kitchen table, staring at 2 pieces of paper. The first, his mother's care facility bill. The second, his sister's chance at freedom. He couldn't afford either. He definitely couldn't afford both. "Choose," the universe seemed to whisper. "Your mother's comfort or your sister's justice. Pick one." He put his head in his hands just for a moment, just to breathe. Then he got up, put on his second uniform, and left for his evening shift. The Hargrove Grand Hotel gleamed like a palace against the Philadelphia skyline. Marcus entered through the service entrance as always. Different building, same invisibility. Mr. Baxter, the floor supervisor, intercepted him before he could clock in. "Hale, you're on penthouse duty tonight. Big fundraiser tomorrow. Judge Hargrove's event. Everything needs to be perfect or you're out." "Yes, sir. And Hale?" Baxter looked him up and down with barely concealed disgust. "Try not to touch anything expensive." Marcus nodded. What else could he do? He collected his cleaning supplies and headed up. 52 floors, same number as his day job, ironically. As he worked, he overheard staff gossip. Judge Evelyn Hargrove, old money, older husband, son runs half the real estate in Pennsylvania. Heard she's worth millions. Billions, probably. These people don't count in millions. Marcus kept mopping. He'd learned long ago that rich people's problems weren't his business. He didn't notice the name. Didn't make the connection. Not yet. He got home at midnight, found his mother awake, wandering the apartment. "Mama, what are you doing up?" She looked at him with unfocused eyes. "I'm looking for Walter. He was supposed to be home by now." Walter, his father, dead for 10 years. Something cracked inside Marcus's chest. "Daddy's just running late. Mama, come on, let's get you back to bed. Get you back." He guided her gently, tucked her in, sang the old hymn she used to sing to him as a child. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound. Her eyes fluttered closed. She smiled the way she used to smile when the world still made sense. Marcus sat beside her until her breathing deepened. Then he went to the kitchen, opened the shoebox he kept hidden on top of the refrigerator. Inside his paramedic certification stamped "Revoked" in red letters, old photographs, a letter from the Pennsylvania EMS Certification Board, failure to follow proper reporting procedures, patient death, certification revoked. He'd tried to do the right thing, reported suspicious medication practices at a Meridian Health Care facility. A patient died because of those practices, and somehow he was the one who lost everything. The system had crushed him once. It was trying to crush him again. But at the bottom of the box was something else. A photocopy of his sister's sentencing document. His eyes found the name he'd somehow missed before. Presiding Judge, Honorable Evelyn Hargrove. The woman from the bus stop. The woman he'd given his last $2, the woman who'd called him filthy. She was the judge who'd sent Jada to prison. Marcus stared at the name until his vision blurred. What kind of world is this? The Hargrove Grand Hotel ballroom glittered like something from a dream Marcus had never dared to have. Crystal chandeliers scattered light across tables set with china worth more than his annual salary. Women in gowns that cost more than his mother's medical bills. Men in tuxedos laughing at jokes that probably weren't funny. Drinking champagne that probably wasn't worth the price. And in the center of it all, a banner, Second Chances Foundation, annual gala rents almost laughed. Second chances for people who'd never needed a first one. He moved through the crowd like a ghost, collecting empty glasses, wiping spills, existing in the spaces between their vision. Nobody looked at him. Nobody ever did. That was the deal. You become invisible, and they let you stay. He reached for a champagne flute on a side table, looked up, froze. She stood 20 F1 away. Judge Evelyn Hargrove, poised, polished, diamonds at her throat catching the chandelier light. Not the broken woman from the bus stop. Not the crying stranger with mascara-streaked cheeks. This was someone else entirely. Someone powerful. Someone who held lives in her hands and dropped them without looking down. Their eyes met across the ballroom. Evelyn's champagne glass stopped halfway to her lips. She recognized him. He saw it. The flash of shock, then something else. Shame. Fear. She set down her glass, started walking toward him. Hail. Mr. Baxter materialized from nowhere, grabbing his arm. Suite 4B, now guest emergency. Move it. Marcus was dragged away before Evelyn could reach him. He looked back once. She stood frozen in the crowd, watching him disappear through the service door. Suite 4B wasn't what he expected. No spilled champagne, no clogged toilet, no rich person's mess for the invisible man to clean. Instead, he found a girl, 17, maybe 18, crouched behind the bathroom door, clutching a burner phone, whispering frantically into it. She saw him and went pale. "Please," her voice cracked. "Please don't tell them I'm here." Marcus assessed the situation. Designer dress, tear-stained face, expensive shoes kicked off in the corner. Not drunk, not high, just scared. Terrified, actually. "They'll send me back," she whispered. "I can't go back there." Footsteps in the suite. Someone searching. A man's voice. "Gia, your grandmother is asking for you." The girl, Gia, pressed herself against the wall, shaking. Marcus made a decision. He stepped inside the bathroom, closed the door behind him, and stayed silent. The footsteps paused outside, then moved on. When they were gone, Gia looked at him with desperate gratitude. "Why did you help me? You don't even know me. I know scared when I see it." Marcus kept his voice low. "Are you safe?" "Not yet." She swallowed hard. "But I'm trying to be." He nodded, didn't push. But then she said something that changed everything. "Be careful around my grandmother. She's not what she seems." "Your grandmother? Judge Hargrove?" Gia's eyes were old beyond her years. She thinks she's protecting the family. She doesn't know what protecting the family actually costs. Before Marcus could respond, Gia slipped out the service entrance, pressing something into his hand. $23. All the cash she had. "Someone helped me once," Marcus murmured, looking at the money. "Guess I'm paying it forward." Gia disappeared into the night, and Marcus stood alone holding more questions than answers. Judge Evelyn Hargrove, the woman who'd insulted him, the woman who'd imprisoned his sister, the woman whose granddaughter had just begged him for help. What was he walking into? 3 days after the gala, Evelyn Hargrove appeared at Marcus's door. He'd just gotten home from his double shift. 18 hours of mopping, scrubbing, and being invisible. His body ached in places he didn't know could ache. And there she was, standing in the hallway of his crumbling apartment building, wearing a coat that cost more than his rent. Mr. Hale, Judge Hargrove. Silence stretched between them like a wire about to snap. "May I come in?" Every instinct screamed, "No." This woman had destroyed his sister's life, had looked at him like he was less than human. But something in her eyes stopped him. Something broken. He stepped aside. His apartment was small, clean but small. The couch where he slept, the kitchen table with its mismatched chairs, the photograph on the refrigerator. Evelyn looked around without judgment. Or maybe she was just good at hiding it. "I've been looking for you," she said finally. "For 6 months." "I wasn't hiding." "No, I suppose you weren't." She sat down, uninvited, at his kitchen table. Her hands trembled slightly. "I owe you an explanation and an apology, neither of which will be adequate." Marcus remained standing, arms crossed, waiting. Evelyn took a breath. "That night at the bus stop, I was at the lowest point of my life. My marriage was falling apart. My son had she stopped," corrected herself. "There were family matters, ugly ones. I'd just signed paperwork that I knew was wrong, but I was too afraid to refuse." "What paperwork?" She looked at him. Really looked. "Your sister's transfer order to maximum security." The words hit him like a physical blow. "I didn't know," he said slowly. "I didn't know it was you. Not then." "I know. That's what makes it worse." Evelyn's voice cracked. "You gave me your last $2. You had nothing. And you gave it to the woman who just ruined your sister's life. You didn't know who I was. You didn't want anything in return. You just saw someone suffering and you helped." Marcus said nothing. "Those $2 got me on a bus to Jefferson Hospital. I checked myself into the psychiatric ward that night. She paused. "I was going to end it right there at that bus stop. And then you appeared. So, you're here to thank me?" "I'm here to tell you the truth." Evelyn met his eyes. I'm here because for 6 months I've been carrying this guilt, and I can't carry it alone anymore. And I'm here because I want to help you the way you helped me. Help me how? Your mother needs care you can't afford. I can make calls. I can cover the costs. I can… And my sister? Evelyn went still. She's innocent. Marcus said, You know that, don't you? You knew it when you sentenced her. The silence that followed was answer enough. I was afraid, Evelyn whispered. My son, Robert, he had leverage over me. Things I'd done wrong in the past, rulings I'd made under his pressure. If I didn't sentence Jada, he would have destroyed me. So, you destroyed her instead. Yes. Evelyn didn't look away. And I have to live with that. Marcus wanted to hate her, should have hated her. This woman had taken everything from him. And now she was sitting in his kitchen offering money like it could wash away 3 years of his sister's life. But hatred took energy, and Marcus was so tired. My mother, he said finally. You can help with my mother. But this doesn't make us even. This doesn't make us anything. I know. And my sister. There's an appeal opportunity. New evidence. Evelyn pulled an envelope from her purse. This is a check for $15,000. It won't buy her freedom. Only the truth can do that. But it will buy her a real lawyer. A fighting chance. Marcus stared at the envelope. $15,000. The exact amount he needed. Why? He asked. Why would you help the woman you sent to prison? Because you helped me when I deserved nothing. Evelyn stood, leaving the envelope on the table. Because kindness like yours shouldn't be wasted on someone like me. And because I'm tired of being a coward. She walked to the door, paused. There's something else you should know. My son Robert, he's not a good man. Gia knows things. Dangerous things. If you're going to help her, you need to understand what you're walking into. What kind of things? The kind that get people killed or imprisoned for crimes they didn't commit. Evelyn's voice hardened. Like your sister. She left. Marcus stood in his empty apartment holding an envelope full of money and a head full of questions. 1 week later, Gloria Hale moved into Sunrise Memory Care, a private facility with gardens and gentle staff and rooms that smelled like lavender instead of disinfectant. She cried when she saw the view from her window. Marcus, baby, how did you manage this? I have a friend, Mama. A good friend. Gloria took his hand. Her eyes were clear today. One of the good days. You always did know how to find the good in people. Just like your father. Marcus smiled. Didn't tell her the truth. That the friend had once called him filthy. That the friend had imprisoned his sister. Some truths were too heavy for good days. That night, Connor Hargrove called. Mr. Hale, this is Connor from Mercer and Associates. We need to talk. They met at a diner far from downtown. Connor looked nervous, kept checking over his shoulder. I know you helped Gia escape the gala. I'm not angry. I'm grateful. She seemed scared. She should be. Connor leaned forward. My father, Robert, he's been running a scheme through a company called Meridian Healthcare. Patients held longer than necessary. Fraudulent billing. People who ask too many questions getting silenced. Silenced. How? Your sister asked questions. 3 years ago, there was a paramedic at one of Meridian's hospitals who tried to report suspicious deaths. That paramedic lost everything. Marcus's blood ran cold. That was me. Connor's eyes widened. You. I reported medication irregularities. A patient died. Next thing I knew, I was blamed for it. Lost my certification, my career, everything. Then you already know what my father is capable of. Connor pulled out a folder. Gia has been gathering evidence, but we need more. We need someone on the inside who can testify, and that's me. That's my grandmother. Connor's jaw tightened. She doesn't know what my father has done. Not really. She thinks she's protecting the family. If we can show her the truth, she already knows about my sister. She knows she sentenced an innocent woman. She doesn't know why. Connor slid the folder across the table. My father has been blackmailing her for years. But if she sees the full picture, all the lives he's destroyed, she might finally be brave enough to fight back. Marcus looked at the folder, at Connor, at the desperate hope in his eyes. Why are you doing this? He's your father. Because some debts can only be paid in truth. Connor stood. And because my grandmother isn't the only one who's tired of being afraid. For 3 weeks, Marcus allowed himself to hope. His mother thrived in the new facility. Good days outnumbered bad ones. She remembered his name, remembered Jada, remembered to smile when he visited. He met Evelyn for coffee twice a week. Strange, fragile meetings where neither of them quite knew what they were doing. I was invisible once too, Evelyn told him. Different kind of invisible. The kind where everyone sees you, but no one hears you. How'd you escape it? I didn't. I just learned to make noise in ways they couldn't ignore. She looked at him. You're still invisible, Marcus, but you don't have to be. He filed the paperwork for his paramedic re-certification. Long shot, probably. But Jada's appeal was moving forward. And maybe, just maybe, the truth was finally clawing its way to the surface. Hope was a dangerous thing. Marcus knew that. He let himself feel it anyway. The call from Gia came at midnight. Marcus, I found something. Something big. She was hiding in New Jersey, staying with a friend, living on fear and adrenaline. There's a connection between Pinehurst Wellness Center, Meridian Healthcare, and my grandfather's cases. Patients who disappeared from the records, money flowing to shell companies, and there's a death. A patient who died under suspicious circumstances. Marcus's throat tightened. Someone tried to report it, a medical worker. They lost everything. I know, he said quietly. That was me. Silence. You. Gia's voice was small. You're the paramedic from the file. I didn't know it connected to your family, not until recently. Then you understand, Gia said. You understand what we're fighting and what they'll do to stop us. Marcus understood. He understood better than anyone. The next morning, he found a document in Evelyn's purse. She'd left it at the cafe. Careless, unlike her. Carter Jada L. Case number 2019-734. His sister's case file in Evelyn's handwriting. Notes in the margins. Why did she have this? Why now? He didn't get to ask because that night the trap snapped shut. The morning started like any other. Marcus clocked in at Mercer and Associates, said hello to Tony at the security desk, collected his mop and bucket. Normal, routine, invisible. Then the security guards appeared. Marcus Hale, come with us. Not a request, an order. They escorted him not to his usual floor, but to HR. 2 police officers waited inside. So did Mr. Baxter from the hotel. And in the corner, watching with cold satisfaction, stood a man Marcus had never met. Robert Hargrove. Mr. Hale. The HR director's voice was flat. You're being accused of corporate espionage. A flash drive containing proprietary financial documents was discovered in your locker. This morning, I've never seen any flash drive. It has your fingerprints on it. That's impossible. Robert Hargrove stepped forward. Expensive suit, expensive smile, eyes like a shark scenting blood. Mr. Hale, let's not make this harder than it needs to be. We have security footage of you accessing restricted offices. We have the stolen documents, and we have witnesses from the Hargrove Grand Hotel who observed similar irregularities. Mr. Baxter nodded. Found materials in his locker there, too. He had access to the private suites. Marcus looked from face to face, understood what was happening. You're framing me. Robert's smile widened. I'm protecting my company and my family." The handcuffs were cold against his wrists. The interrogation room at Philadelphia Police Department was exactly what Marcus expected. Gray walls, metal table, one-way mirror hiding whoever was watching. Detective Morrison entered. 50's tired eyes, the look of a man who'd seen too much and stopped caring. "Mr. Hale, you want to tell me your side? I'm being set up. Robert Hargrove is behind this." Robert Hargrove. Morrison almost laughed. "The real estate developer? The guy who funds half the Police Benevolent Association?" "Yes." "You got proof?" Marcus said nothing. They both knew he didn't. Morrison sighed. "Look, between you and me, this whole thing stinks, but Robert Hargrove has friends in this department, friends in the DA's office, friends everywhere that matters. So I'm guilty because he says so. You're guilty because the evidence says so." "And the evidence?" Morrison shrugged. "It's overwhelming." The public defender arrived 30 minutes later. Young, overwhelmed, clearly outmatched. "The charges are serious, Mr. Hale. Corporate espionage, theft of proprietary information. They're asking for bail at $200,000. $200,000 might as well be $2 million. What about the evidence? It's fabricated. Can you prove that?" Silence. 3 days in lockup, the longest 3 days of Marcus's life. His cellmate was a man named Ramon Tate, 45, former accountant, serving time for fraud. He swore he didn't commit. "Meridian Healthcare," Ramon said when Marcus mentioned the name. "Yeah, I know Meridian. They're why I'm here." "What happened?" "Found some irregularities in their books. Billing for patients who didn't exist, charging insurance for treatments never given. Reported it to my supervisor." Ramon laughed bitterly. 3 weeks later, I was arrested. Evidence appeared out of nowhere. Sound familiar? Too familiar? The Hargrove family. Marcus said, "They're connected. Connected, brother. They own the system. Robert Hargrove built Meridian from the ground up. His mother signs off on cases that make problems disappear. It's a machine, and people like us are just gears to be discarded." Marcus stared at the ceiling of his cell. His mother was in a care facility he could no longer afford. His sister was in prison for a crime she didn't commit. And now he was here, framed for something he'd never done. 3 generations of Hales, all crushed by the same machine. On the 3rd night, a guard appeared. "Hale, you made bail." Marcus couldn't believe it. "How?" The guard shrugged. "Don't ask questions. Just go." In the release area, Connor Hargrove waited. "Before you say anything, my father doesn't know I did this. My grandmother doesn't know I did this. This is me personally using money my father can't trace." "Why?" "Because Gia showed me the evidence. All of it." Connor's voice shook. "Do you know how many people my father has destroyed? Not just your sister. Dozens, maybe hundreds. People who got in his way, who asked the wrong questions, who were simply inconvenient. And your grandmother, she's been his puppet for 30 years, too afraid to fight back, too complicit to walk away. But Gia thinks she can still be reached. That somewhere inside her there's still a judge who believes in justice. Gia is wrong. Maybe." Connor pulled out a folder. "But this is everything we have. Financial records, communications, testimony from victims, and a recording of my father discussing how to handle you the same way he handled your paramedic career." Marcus took the folder, felt its weight. "What do you want me to do?" "Testify. Tell your story. Let Gia tell hers." Connor gripped his arm. "And talk to my grandmother. You're the only person she might actually listen to. The man who gave her $2 when she had nothing. The man whose sister she condemned. She knows she sentenced an innocent woman, she told me. She knows she did something wrong. She doesn't know how wrong. She doesn't know the full extent of what my father has built on her rulings." Connor's jaw tightened. "Show her. Make her see. And maybe, just maybe, she'll finally choose to fight. That night, Marcus sat in his apartment with the folder spread across his kitchen table. Evidence, so much evidence, financial trails, medical records, witness statements. His name appeared on page 47. The paramedic who tried to report patient deaths at Meridian General Hospital. The paramedic whose career was destroyed to protect Robert Hargrove's empire. And on page 63, Jada Hale, a teacher who'd witnessed Robert Hargrove Jr. attempting to assault a young woman at a charity event. A teacher who'd intervened, who'd been thanked with fabricated charges and a 5-year prison sentence. His sister hadn't just been in the wrong place at the wrong time. She'd been silenced deliberately, systematically by a family that crushed anyone who threatened their power. Marcus picked up his phone, called Evelyn. "We need to talk. All of it. Everything you haven't told me." Silence on the other end. "Then come over. I'll be waiting." Evelyn's home was nothing like Marcus expected. Not a mansion, not a palace, just a brownstone in Center City filled with books and shadows and the smell of old paper. She met him at the door. No makeup, no jewelry, just a tired woman in a cardigan holding a cup of tea that had long gone cold. "You've seen the files," she said. "Not a question. I've seen everything." They sat in her study, walls lined with law books, a single photograph on the desk. Evelyn as a young woman holding a baby. Robert, probably. "He wasn't always like this," Evelyn said, following Marcus's gaze. "Or maybe he was, and I just didn't want to see it." "When did you know that he was capable of real evil?" She considered the question. "When Jada's case crossed my desk, I knew something was wrong. The evidence was too clean, the witnesses too convenient, but Robert had materials, documentation of other rulings I'd made under pressure, other compromises. So, you sacrificed my sister to protect yourself?" "Yes." Evelyn didn't flinch. "I told myself I had no choice, that one more injustice in a lifetime of injustices didn't matter, that I was too old and too tired to fight. But it did matter, did. It destroyed a young woman's life. It destroyed your family." Evelyn met his eyes. "And it destroyed whatever was left of my soul." Marcus wanted to rage, to scream, to make her feel even a fraction of what Jada had felt, locked in that cell for 3 years. But rage wouldn't free his sister. Only the truth could do that. "Connor showed me the evidence, the full extent of Meridian's operations, the patients held illegally, the deaths covered up, the lives ruined to protect your son's empire." "I know. You know. Gia showed me months ago." "Why do you think I was at that bus stop, Marcus?" Evelyn's voice cracked. "I'd just seen proof that my son had destroyed dozens of innocent lives using my rulings, my authority, my name." She laughed bitterly. "I was going to end it right there, and then you appeared with your $2 and your kindness. And you what? I felt ashamed. For the first time in years, I felt genuinely ashamed." Evelyn stood, walked to the window. "You had nothing. Less than nothing. And you still gave. Meanwhile, I had everything. Money, power, prestige, and all I'd done was take. So what now?" She turned. "Now I do what I should have done 3 years ago. I testify. I bring down my own son. And I pray it's not too late for the people he's destroyed." The plan came together in whispered conversations and encrypted messages. Connor coordinated with a federal prosecutor named Julia Ward, one of the few officials untouched by Robert's influence. Gia compiled evidence from her hiding place in New Jersey, and Marcus prepared to tell his story. All of it. From the patient death he'd reported 16 years ago to the frame-up happening right now. But they needed more than testimony. They needed Evelyn to speak publicly, to admit her complicity, to burn down the system she'd helped build. "He'll destroy me," Evelyn said during their final meeting. "Robert has files, recordings, Evidence of every compromise I've ever made. So, he'll expose you. He'll expose everything. My career, my reputation, my freedom. I could go to prison, Marcus. I could lose everything. Marcus looked at her. This woman who'd called him filthy, who'd sentenced his sister, who'd spent 30 years as a coward. My sister already lost everything, he said quietly. 3 years in a cell for a crime she didn't commit, because you were afraid. Evelyn closed her eyes. I know. So the question is, are you still afraid? Silence stretched between them. Then Evelyn opened her eyes, and for the first time, Marcus saw something he hadn't expected. Resolve. I'm terrified, she admitted, but I'm more terrified of dying as the person I've become. You gave me $2 when you had nothing. The least I can do is give you the truth, even if it costs me everything. She reached into her desk, pulled out a folder. This is every ruling Robert forced me to make, every compromise, every lie. It's enough to bring down his entire operation. She handed it to Marcus. Now, let's finish this. The courtroom of the Philadelphia County Courthouse hummed with tension. Commonwealth versus Hale, case number 2024. Wump empty. What should have been a routine corporate espionage trial had drawn reporters, camera crews, and spectators who sensed something historic about to unfold. Marcus sat at the defendant's table, hands folded, heart pounding. His public defender shuffled papers nervously. A young man clearly outmatched by the prosecution's army of suits. Robert Hargrove occupied the front row of the gallery. Custom Italian suit, Rolex catching the light, the smile of a man who'd already won. Judge Prescott, known for his friendly relationship with Hargrove real estate interests, took his seat. Court is now in session. The prosecution rose. Confident, rehearsed. Your Honor, the evidence against Mr. Hale is overwhelming. Security footage, financial documents, witness testimony. This man exploited his position as a janitor to steal proprietary information worth millions. The courtroom doors crashed open. Every head turned. Evelyn Hargrove stood in the doorway, not in judicial robes, not with the bearing of a powerful judge. She wore a simple black dress, no jewelry, no pretense. In her hands, she clutched a picture frame. Robert shot to his feet. Mother, what the hell are you doing? Evelyn walked forward, steady, deliberate. Her eyes never left Marcus. Your Honor, her voice carried through the stunned silence. I request permission to testify as a witness for the defense. Judge Prescott's face drained of color. Judge Hargrove, this is highly irregular. You have no standing in this case. I have every standing. Evelyn reached the front of the courtroom. Because I am the reason this man is sitting here, and I am the only one who can tell the truth about why. Robert lunged toward her. She's not well. She's clearly suffering from sit down, Robert. Evelyn's voice cracked like a whip. The courtroom went silent. For 30 years, I have done what you told me, ruled how you wanted, destroyed who you needed destroyed. She turned to face her son. Not anymore. Judge Prescott had no choice. The cameras were rolling. The world was watching. Evelyn Hargrove took the witness stand, raised her right hand, swore her oath, and then she burned her life to the ground. I want to tell you about a night 6 months ago, she began. The worst night of my life until today. She looked at Marcus. I was sitting at a bus stop in Kensington, alone, crying. I had just signed transfer papers sending an innocent woman to maximum security prison. A woman named Jada Hale. A murmur rippled through the courtroom. I knew she was innocent. I had seen the evidence. But my son, Evelyn's voice cracked. My son had leverage over me, recordings of past compromises, documents that would destroy my career. So I did what he asked. I always did what he asked. She paused, gathered herself. That night, I wanted to die. I sat at that bus stop planning how to end it. And then a man appeared. Her eyes found Marcus again, a black man, in a janitor's uniform, soaked from the rain. He asked if I was okay, if I needed help. Do you know what I did? Evelyn's voice shook. I called him filthy. I told him to get his black hands away from me. I threatened to call the police on a man whose only crime was showing kindness to a stranger. The courtroom was absolutely still. And do you know what he did? She held up the picture frame. Behind the glass, 2 crumpled dollar bills. He gave me these, his last $2 for bus fare. Then he walked away 4 miles in the rain because he couldn't afford the bus anymore. Evelyn's tears fell freely now. He didn't know who I was. He didn't know I had just destroyed his sister's life. He just saw a woman crying and wanted to help. That's who Marcus Hale is. She pointed at Robert. And that is who my son is. A man who frames innocent people, who destroys lives to protect his empire, who blackmailed his own mother for 30 years. Robert's face had gone gray. I have documentation of every case he forced me to corrupt, every ruling he bought, every life he ruined. Evelyn pulled a folder from beneath her seat, including the case of Jada Hale, a schoolteacher imprisoned for stopping my grandson from assaulting a young woman at a charity event. The courtroom erupted. The doors burst open again. Federal prosecutor Julia Ward strode in, flanked by FBI agents. Robert Hargrove, her voice cut through the chaos, you are under arrest for racketeering, fraud, obstruction of justice, and conspiracy. You have the right to remain silent. This is insane, Robert screamed. Mother, what have you done? What have you done? The agents seized him. Handcuffs clicked shut. Evelyn watched her son being dragged away. Her face showed no triumph, only exhaustion, and perhaps finally peace. I did what I should have done 30 years ago, she said quietly. I told the truth. The evidence presented over the next hour was devastating. Connor Hargrove testified against his own father, financial records, shell companies exposed. Gia Hargrove appeared via video link documenting her illegal detention at Pinehurst Wellness Center. And finally, Marcus took the stand. He told his story simply. The patient death he'd reported 16 years ago. The career destroyed to protect Meridian's secrets. The sister imprisoned for daring to stand up against the Hargrove family. I'm not here for revenge, he said. I'm here because the truth matters. My sister matters. Every person that man destroyed deserves to be heard. Judge Prescott, visibly terrified of the cameras, the FBI, the tsunami of accountability, had no choice. All charges against Marcus Hale are dismissed with prejudice. The gavel fell, but it was Evelyn's final words that shattered Marcus completely. She approached him as the courtroom dissolved into chaos. Reporters shouting, cameras flashing, the world watching. She held out the framed $2 bill. I've carried this every day for 6 months. It reminded me that kindness still exists, even when I didn't deserve it. She pressed it into his hands. Kindness given when you have nothing reveals everything about who you are, and cruelty given when you have everything. She looked toward the door where Robert had disappeared. Reveals just as much. Marcus stared at the frame. The same crumpled bills, the same $2 he'd given a crying stranger on the worst night of her life. She'd kept them, framed them, carried them like a talisman. His vision blurred. Don't cry, he told himself. Not here, not in front of everyone. But his body didn't listen. The first tear fell, then another. Then he couldn't stop. Marcus Hale wept. Not quiet, dignified tears. These came from somewhere deep, somewhere he'd locked away years ago when crying stopped being useful and survival became everything. 3 years of prison calls and sleepless nights. 3 years of watching his mother forget his name. 3 years of carrying a weight no one should carry alone. And now, finally, the truth. His shoulders shook. His breath came in ragged gasps. The cameras captured everything, and he didn't care. "Thank you," he managed to whisper through the tears. "Thank you for finally telling the truth." Evelyn's own eyes glistened. "No, Marcus, thank you." She touched his arm gently. "You showed me that redemption was still possible, even for someone like me." She turned and walked away. Marcus stood in the middle of the courtroom, holding $2 that had changed everything. Tears streaming down his face, surrounded by chaos. Finally free. 6 weeks later, Marcus stood outside Bedford Hills Correctional Facility. The morning sun painted the sky in shades of gold and pink. Birds sang in the trees lining the parking lot. The air smelled like cut grass and possibility. He'd imagined this moment 1,000 times. In the supply closet during lunch breaks, in his cramped apartment at 2:00 a.m., in the visitor's room, separated from Jada by bulletproof glass. 1,000 imagined reunions. None of them prepared him for the real thing. The gates opened. Jada Hale walked out. She was thinner, older. 3 years had carved lines into her face that hadn't been there before. Her hair was shorter. Her shoulders carried a weight they hadn't carried when she went in. But her eyes, God, her eyes were exactly the same. Full of fire, full of fight, full of the stubborn hope that had kept her alive in that place. She saw him. Stopped. Marcus. He couldn't speak. His throat had closed completely. Jada took one step, then another. Then she was running. She hit him like a freight train, arms wrapping around him so tight he couldn't breathe. He didn't need to breathe. He just needed this. His baby sister. Finally home. The tears came without warning. Marcus hadn't cried in front of anyone since their father's funeral. Had taught himself to lock it away, to be strong, to be the man of the house who never broke. But now, holding Jada in the morning sunlight, something cracked open inside him that couldn't be closed again. He sobbed. Deep, wrenching sobs that shook his entire body. 16 years of being strong, 3 years of helpless rage, a lifetime of promises he'd been terrified he couldn't keep. "I'm sorry," he choked out between sobs. "Jada, I'm so sorry I couldn't protect you. I tried, but I couldn't. Stop." Jada pulled back, her own face soaked with tears. She grabbed his face in both hands, forced him to look at her. "You did protect me every single day, but you were in there for 3 years, and I survived because of you." Her voice was fierce. "Every phone call, every letter, every time you told me to hold on, that the truth would come out. You never stopped fighting. I promised, Dad, and you kept your promise." Jada pressed her forehead against his. "I'm here. I'm free, because my big brother never gave up." They stood there for a long moment, 2 siblings crying in the sunshine. Finally together. Jada pulled back, wiping her eyes. "Now take me to see Mama. I've missed her so much." Marcus laughed, a wet, broken sound. "She's been asking about you every day. Even on the bad days, she remembers you." "Then let's go." Jada took his hand. "Let's go home." Gloria Hale was having a good day. She sat in the garden of Sunrise Memory Care, face tilted toward the sun, humming a hymn from her childhood. The flowers were blooming. The birds were singing. The world felt gentle. Then she heard footsteps. 2 sets of footsteps. She turned, saw Marcus, saw Jada. Her voice cracked. Her hands flew to her mouth. "Baby girl, is that really you?" Jada fell to her knees beside her mother's wheelchair, fresh tears already streaming. "It's me, Mama. I'm home." "But you were. I thought Marcus said you were away." "I was." Jada took her mother's weathered hands. "But I came back. I'll always come back to you. Gloria looked at Marcus, eyes bright with confusion and hope. How? How is this possible? The truth finally came out, Mama. Marcus knelt beside them both, completing the circle. Justice finally came. Gloria pulled them both close, her 2 children, her whole world. I knew it, she whispered, tears soaking into their shoulders. I knew God wouldn't let this stand. Your father always said, the truth is patient, but it never sleeps. They held each other in the garden as the sun climbed higher. 3 Hales reunited at last. Jada looked at Marcus over their mother's shoulder, mouthed 2 words, thank you. Marcus shook his head, mouthed back, thank Dad. That evening, Marcus received a letter. Pennsylvania EMS Certification Board, reinstatement application, Marcus J. Hale. His hands trembled as he opened it. Dear Mr. Hale, following our review of your case and the recent judicial findings regarding Meridian Healthcare, we are pleased to inform you that your paramedic certification has been fully reinstated, effective immediately. The board extends its sincere apologies for the injustice you suffered. Your dedication to patient care and your courage in reporting misconduct reflect the highest standards of our profession. Welcome back. He read it 3 times. Then he called Jada. I'm going back, he said, voice thick with emotion. Back to saving lives. That's all you ever wanted, isn't it? It's who I am. Marcus looked at the letter again. It's who Dad raised me to be. Then go be that person. Jada's voice was warm. You've earned it. He hung up, looked around his small apartment, at the photograph of his graduation on the refrigerator, at the framed $2 bill now hanging on his wall. Kindness given when you have nothing reveals everything about who you are. He finally understood what that meant. 1 year later, the bus stop in Kensington looked the same as it always did. Cracked pavement, flickering light, rain drumming against the shelter roof. Marcus stood there in his paramedic uniform, waiting for his ride. First shift at Philadelphia General, first day of his new life. Beside him, a young man sat hunched on the bench, soaked, shivering, eyes red from crying. Marcus sat down. Rough night. The young man nodded, ashamed. Missed my bus. Can't afford another fare. My mom's sick and He stopped. Couldn't continue. Marcus reached into his pocket, pulled out $2, placed them gently in the young man's hand for the bus. It's a long walk in this rain. The young man stared at the money, at Marcus, at the kindness he hadn't expected. Why? You don't even know me. Marcus smiled. Someone did this for me once. Changed everything. He stood as his ride pulled up, Jada waving from the driver's seat. Pass it on someday. He climbed into the car. Who was that? Jada asked. Nobody. Everybody. Marcus looked back as the young man boarded the bus. Just someone who needed $2 more than I did. Jada shook her head, smiling. Some things never change. No. Marcus watched the bus disappear into the rain. Some things shouldn't. Robert Hargrove was sentenced to 25 years for fraud, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice. Meridian Health Care was shut down. Over 200 victims received compensation. Judge Evelyn Hargrove pleaded guilty to judicial misconduct. She now provides free legal aid to wrongfully convicted individuals. Jada Hale returned to teaching. She founded a non-profit supporting families of the incarcerated. Gloria Hale lived 2 more years, surrounded by her children in love. Marcus Hale still carries $2 in his pocket just in case. They say kindness costs nothing. That's not true. Kindness costs everything you have. Your time, your comfort, your last $2 on a rainy night. But here's what they don't tell you. Kindness comes back. Not always when you expect it. Not always how you expect it, but it comes back. So the next time you see someone struggling, someone the world has written off, remember this: you never know who you're helping, you never know what they'll become, and you never know how those $2 might change everything. Just give anyway. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to believe in kindness today. Like, subscribe, and leave a comment. What's the smallest act of kindness that changed your life? Sarah Monroe deserves to be remembered.